What is up, guys? Today I will be telling you what I think is the best selection for every NFC team in the 2024 NFL Draft. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. First up is the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas, their offseason confused me. I didn't really understand what they were doing. They still haven't extended anyone. They didn't sign anyone in free agency. I think they just got collectively worse, but they did pretty good in the draft. Will McClay is a very good talent evaluator, and they draft very good every year. I like them moving back with Detroit to gain an extra pick and draft Tyler Guyton at 29, and then draft Cooper Beebe in the third round. So those are two guys who could be starting offensive linemen. But my favorite pick is one of my draft crushes, Marshawn Kneeland, the edge out of Western Michigan. Go Broncos. Kneeland is he's a raw edge rusher. Uh, Matt guy, obviously going to Western Michigan. He's a ball of clay, but his athletic upside is very intriguing. Dallas has always been known as a team with very good edge rushers, and a big reason of that is DeMarcus Lawrence, and he is getting older, and I don't know how much gas he has left in the tank, and I think that Nealon can be a protege to Lawrence when he decides to retire or the team decides to move on to him. So I think it's a very high upside pick, and I like his fit in Dallas where he doesn't have to contribute right away. Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I loved what the Eagles did in this draft, getting Quinyon Mitchell, who was their de facto number one corner at 22, and then getting my favorite pick, Cooper DeJean, cornerback, nickel, safety, punt returner, whatever you want to call him, out of Iowa. Cooper DeJean is one of my draft crushes, and you're going to notice that this is going to be a trend with the AFC East. I love Cooper DeJean. I don't care if he can't play outside corner. He's going to be good somewhere. This is a Brian Branch discussion for me. He's going to be good. I don't know why teams keep passing on guys like this. It doesn't make sense to me because, like I said, they're just good football players wherever they play. But continuing on to that Eagles conversation, this secondary was just flat out bad at the end of last year, and it cost them. They didn't even look like they belonged in the playoffs. And I think this ensures that that's not going to happen again. I'm not going to say it's going to be great because they have older corners in Slay and Bradbury and really young guys like Mitchell and DeJean. So the volatility there is really high, already a highly volatile position in cornerback. But this will make them feel a lot better about their secondary going into this year and the long term. Onto the New York Football Giants with their second round selection of Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota. I like Nubin. He's my number one safety on my board, but I guess that's not saying much because the safety class wasn't very good. But they need help in the secondary. They have Deontay Banks, who they took last year at outside corner, who I think had a decent year, but he was never going to be a guy that was going to be a lockdown corner in week one. And they lost Xavier McKinney, the best player in that secondary, to the Green Bay Packers, and they needed to address the secondary. I wasn't in love with this pick, but I just think it's a good pick. He is a high floor, lower ceiling player, but you know what he's going to be, and this defense in general isn't the most talented in the league, so I'm in favor of just adding good football players. To finish up in the NFC East, we have the Washington Commanders with the selection of Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois, in the second round. Newton was my guy in this draft class. I was pounding the table for this guy. He was a top 15 player for me. I knew he wasn't going to go that high. I'm not surprised he fell out of the first round because of the more plugged in guys such as Daniel Jeremiah and Peter Schrager had a lower rating on him, let's say, or didn't include them in their first round mocks. Now, I thought he fell due to being shorter and having surgery on his foot in the pre-draft process. But today, I'm recording this on Saturday, May 11th. It came out that he actually had surgery or needs surgery on his other foot. So he already had surgery on one of his feet, and he's going to have surgery on another one, which explains why he fell so far. That is a questionable thing. I can't really think of any player coming out that had that happen. So I understand why teams pass on him, but honestly, I would still have taken him in the second round. I just love this guy. I think he's going to be a great player. I think he I think he's athletic and productive and he has upside. I'm just a huge Johnny Newton fan. I hope this news sucks for him. I just hope it works out because I really love this guy. Next up are my Detroit Lions, and although I love the selection of Terry Nard in the first round, I thought it was great value. I thought he would never even be there to consider, but I have to go with Christian Mahogany, guard out of Boston College. Lions bias aside, this was my favorite pick of the late day three, sixth, and seventh rounds. I could not believe that this guy was still there. Some team could have taken him in the later second round, and I honestly wouldn't have blinked an eye. I thought he was that good. I know he tore his ACL in 2022, but he recovered and he was great in 2023. I think he's that patented day two guard who is gonna have a good, solid NFL career. Like I said, there must be something underlying with him, like, kind of like Johnny Newton that I don't know about. I don't know, but I think this guy could be a starting guard in the NFL for years to come. Like I said, I don't understand why he fell. Next up is the Green Bay Packers with the seventh round selection of Kalen King. King is a fascinating prospect. He was awesome in 2022, and in the summer of 2023, he was projected to be a first round pick in this draft. And then in 2023, he was really bad. He had a brutal senior bowl and did not test well at all in the athletic testing in the pre draft process. I was expecting him to go in day three, but he fell. I mean, he was a compensatory selection. He fell as far as you can in the draft. This was a guy who was a first round projection, not based off projection of what he could be, but rather what he was in that 2022 year. And cornerback is a very volatile position. A prime example of this is James Bradbury. He seems to be good one year and bad the next year. And maybe it could swing in the other way. And the Packers have a question mark at CB2. Eric Stokes has been decent but injured a lot. Carrington Valentine was okay last year. And I don't know, I think there's a possibility where Kalen King has an impact on this football team going into the 2023 season. The Minnesota Vikings are a team under general manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah that I never really love any of their picks, of their day one or two picks, but this is the draft where it changed. Dallas Turner was a awesome pick at 17. He shouldn't have been there at 17, and I know that Minnesota gave up a ton to get him, but it's a similar conversation to his former teammate, Will Anderson. Everyone ripped on the Texans for making that trade. And then Will Anderson was the defensive rookie of the year, and no one really cares anymore because he was so good. I think there could be a similar trajectory for Dallas Turner. He could easily be the defensive rookie of the year for me. I would not be surprised at all. Although I really like Latu, I think Turner was a clear edge one in this class. He possesses a high floor along with a high ceiling, and I think that's the blend that every team should be looking for. He had the production that Jared Verse didn't, which puts him ahead of Verse, and he has the athleticism that I don't think Latu especially has. So I think it's a great pick for the Vikings, and he can be a good pass rush duo next to Jonathan Grenard. The Chicago Bears were the talk of the 2024 NFL Draft, selecting Caleb Williams with the first pick and Rome Odunze with the ninth pick. And although I think Odunze was a steal at 9, I didn't want to go with him because he still was a top 10 pick. So I went a little deeper with offensive tackle Kieran Amagaje out of Yale, who they selected in the third round. Amagaje is a very intriguing prospect. He has a prototypical tackle build and 36-inch arms, which is absurd. However, he did play in the FCS, so his film was kind of hard to project to the NFL level because he was just so much better than the players he played against. Personally, I had a second round grade on Amagaje. I really think he could be a starting tackle in the NFL. I am intrigued that the Bears picked him, though. I thought he was best fit for a team that was looking to move on from maybe a expensive tackle or older tackle. So I wonder if he'll play guard because the Bears have two decent tackles on rookie contracts. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out. Moving on to the NFC South, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and my favorite selection was Chris Braswell, edge out of Alabama. The Bucs selected him in the second round, and he's a lot of projection. He's really athletic. He was productive at Alabama, but I think you're banking on his athletic ability to really pay off for him to have an impact in the NFL. The Bucks are not exactly strong at edge. They have John Tryanchenko, who's okay, and Yaya Diaby, who had a good rookie season last year, but you're losing Shaq Barrett, and I think Braswell can contribute to a Tampa Bay defense that has to retool a little bit. And while looking at the edges who went after Braswell, I think there was a significant talent gap between Braswell and the next guys being selected. So I commend Tampa Bay for selecting an edge rusher of this caliber while they could. My favorite selection for the New Orleans Saints was cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. If you asked people a year ago, McKinstry would have been about everyone's CB1, but he never really took the jump that everyone thought he would. Plus, he had a Jones fracture in his foot, which made him fall. However, I thought there might have been a little overcorrection as he was drafted with the 41st overall pick, and I thought he was still a first round corner. And I think he gives the Saints some financial flexibility to move on from Marshawn Lattimore and pairing McKinstry with Alante Taylor and Paulson Adebo. Like I said, I think McKinstry was still a first round player, and that's excellent value for the Saints to get him at 41. I would like to preface this discussion with the Atlanta Falcons by saying I won't be talking about Michael Penix Jr. However, I will be talking about his college teammate, Braylon Trice. Trice was an incredibly productive edge rusher at the University of Washington, and he racked up an absurd amount of pressures in an absurd amount of playing time, to be honest. I think he played about 90% of snaps. I understand why he fell in the pre-draft process. He's not that big and he's not that athletic, but I just think he's so productive that I can't see him not having at least a rotational role as a decent pass rusher in the NFL. I really wanted to pick Rook Orororo as my favorite pick. I love this dude, but I cannot justify taking him over Johnny Newton, and it kills me, but I just couldn't pick Rook because of that. Next up is the Carolina Panthers, and as much as I love Xavier Legette, them picking him with their first round pick, I didn't love. I just wish they got someone like Lad McConkey or Roman Wilson, or I know Ricky Pearsall went a pick before, but like that type of player where it's just a consistent target. They drafted Jonathan Mingo last year, and I liked Mingo, but he's an athletic project kind of receiver. And I don't know. Did the Panthers watch Bryce last year? He loved throwing to Adam Thielen. It's because Adam Thielen was at the right place at the right time. He knew where Thielen was gonna be. It's not a wild card like Mingo. And I like Leggett, but I feel like he's more like in the Mingo mold than the McConkey mold. With that being said, I did like the selection of Jatavion Sanders. I wasn't a huge Jatavion Sanders fan just because I didn't think he could block. And as a tight end, if you're not going to be a-list receiver, you should probably have to block. But I don't think the Panthers necessarily need him to block. I think he can just be a good pass catcher for Bryce Young. I hope they don't ask him to block, and maybe he can just be a glorified big slot receiver for the Panthers and help Bryce Young progress because I still believe in Bryce Young, man. He was so good at Alabama. I just think he needs some more help. To kick off the NFC West, we have the San Francisco 49ers selecting safety Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest in the fourth round. Mustafa is a big, downhill, hard-hitting, run-defending safety. As you can tell in this picture, this dude is absolutely shredded, and I'm excited to see what he is asked to do in this 49ers defense. This team sorely missed Talanoa Hufanga after he went down, I believe, in an ACL sometime last year, and you could just tell they weren't the same. They didn't have that tone setter in the second level, and I think Mustafa provides insurance so that doesn't happen again. And he can come and play in obvious rundowns and situations like that where he doesn't have to be in pass coverage a ton because he's not that great at it. That's his weakness. He went in the fourth round for a reason, but I really like the fit of him in San Francisco defense, and I'm excited to see what he can do. My favorite pick from the Los Angeles Rams was Cam Kinchin, safety out of Miami. Kinchin's one selected in the third round, but he was the guy who had first round hype coming into this college football season. He has crazy ball skills. I don't know how many picks he had, but it was an absurd amount at Miami. However, his athletic testing was abysmal. It was really bad. I believe his RAS was like a 2 or a 3, which bumped him down a lot. But I think tape-wise, he was the best safety that I watched in this draft. And safety is a position where I think you can get away with being less athletic than you should be. So I think Kinchins can play a role in this defense. I'm not really sure what it is, but I'm intrigued by this fit with the Rams. Next up is the Seattle Seahawks, and they had one of my favorite picks in the draft, selecting Christian Haynes, guard from UConn in the third round. The Seahawks had a sore need along the offensive line. They had Olu Oluwatimi and Anthony Bradford starting at center and guard, both of whom were day three picks in the 2024 NFL draft. And although it wasn't a disaster, you just have to upgrade at the position, especially because they have an older quarterback in Geno Smith. However, they did not force this need. Christian Haynes was a second round player for me. He was a top 50 player for me. I think he was my highest graded guard. I really like this guy. I think he can be a day one starter along that Seahawks offensive line. I like what they did in the first round with drafting Byron Murphy. I'm not too surprised they went defense with Mike McDonald as their head coach, and they want to build from the trenches out, and I respect that. He comes from the Ravens way of thinking, and that's a pretty darn good way to build your team. To cap this off, we have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Christian Jones, offensive tackle from Texas, in the fifth round. I was surprised that Jones fell this far because he has the physical traits of a starting offensive tackle in the NFL, and he was pretty good at Texas. But I guess he lacks elite athleticism, which is a big thing at offensive tackle. So I can understand why he fell. However, I thought he was much more of a third, maybe a fourth round guy than a fifth round guy. The Cardinals don't have an immediate need at offensive tackle. They have their right tackle of the future with Paris Johnson Jr., who they selected with a sixth overall pick last year, and a stopgap guy in Jonah Williams. And I don't think Jonah Williams is very good, which is why I like this pick. Maybe Christian Jones can develop into something and allows you to move on from Jonah Williams, and you have two rookie tackles, which is great considering tackles is a premium high paid position. And you almost have to have a good offensive line with Kyler Murray because he just gets hurt so often. So I like the value here. I like the position here. And this was a great pick by the Cardinals. All right, that is it for the NFC. If you are interested in any of the AFC teams, check out my last video. It is the same as this, except just with the AFC teams. Comment down below who your favorite team's best pick was. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.